My son put his hands on me in my own kitchen, and I didn't say a word. But the next morning, when he came downstairs thinking I just accepted his disrespect, he froze in terror when he saw who was sitting at my dining room table. Let me tell you how we got to that breakfast that felt more like a courtroom. I'm Harold Brennan, 60 years old, a retired factory supervisor living in Charleston, South Carolina. You know those old brick houses with the front porches and oak trees? That's me. I worked 35 years at the textile plant, started when I was 25 right out of high school, saved every penny, and built a decent retirement for myself. My wife Martha passed from cancer 3 years ago. Hardest thing I ever went through, watching that woman fight for 18 months before the disease finally won. She was the glue that held our family together, the one who could talk sense into our boy Victor when he got stubborn. I raised Victor alone after that. He's 35 now, and until about 8 months ago, I thought I'd done right by him. He'd worked 12 years for Norfolk Southern Railroad, had his own apartment across town, seemed to have his life together. Then the railroad started cutting routes, eliminating positions. Victor got laid off last March with just 2 weeks severance and a handshake. That's when the drinking started getting bad. He'd always liked his beer, but losing that job hit him different. 12 years of steady work, gone. His apartment rent was $1,400 a month, and unemployment only covered about half that. By June, he was behind on everything: rent, truck payment, credit cards. "Dad, can I stay with you for a few weeks?" he asked me one Saturday morning in July. "Just until I find something steady." What father says no to that? Martha always said our home would be Victor's home as long as we had breath in our bodies, so I said yes. Big mistake. The few weeks turned into months. Victor would sleep until noon, then sit in my living room playing games on his phone until dinner. I'd ask about job applications and he'd wave me off. "Market's tough, Dad. Nobody's hiring guys like me anymore." But he always had money for beer. Every night he'd drive to the corner store and come back with a 12-pack. Then it became a case, then it became whatever was cheapest and strongest. The financial stuff started small. "Dad, can you cover my truck insurance this month? I'll pay you back when unemployment comes in." Then it was his cell phone bill. Then grocery money, always promising to pay me back, never doing it. I keep my banking simple. One checking account at First National, same bank I've used for 30 years. I get paper statements every month because I don't trust all that computer stuff. That's how I started noticing the discrepancies. $200 withdrawal I didn't make, then $300, then $500. When I asked Victor about it, he had this innocent look. "Dad, you probably just forgot. You're getting older. Memory isn't what it used to be." That stung, but I let it slide. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was forgetting things. But then I started paying closer attention. I'd write down every withdrawal, every purchase, and the numbers didn't match. Someone was taking money from my account, and there was only one person who could have gotten my debit card. I confronted him about it 2 weeks ago, had all my statements laid out on the kitchen table like evidence. "Victor, I've been tracking my account. You've taken $2,800 from me over the past 4 months. He didn't even try to deny it, just got this defiant look on his face. "This house is half mine, Dad. Mom left it to both of us. That was a flat-out lie. Martha left everything to me in her will. We talked about it when she was sick, decided it was simpler that way. Victor would inherit when I passed, but until then, everything was mine. Son, that's not how the will reads, and you know it." "Well, maybe the will needs to change," he said, and there was something cold in his voice I'd never heard before. That's when I knew I was dealing with a different person than the boy I'd raised. This wasn't grief talking or disappointment about his job. This was something darker. The breaking point came last Tuesday night. I'd been having trouble sleeping since Martha died, my arthritis acting up something fierce. I was in my recliner around 3 a.m. trying to find something decent on TV when I heard Victor's truck pulling into the driveway. He came through that front door like a hurricane, slamming it so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. I could smell the beer and whiskey from 10 feet away. "Victor," I called out, trying to keep my voice calm. "Son, you all right?" He stumbled into the living room, his work shirt torn and his face red with anger and booze. There was a cut on his knuckle like he'd been in a fight. "Don't start with me, old man," he slurred. "Had enough lectures for one night." I stood up from my chair, my back popping. "What happened? You've been fighting. None of your damn business what I've been doing." That's when I noticed my brass lamp was knocked over. The green shade Martha loved cracked right down the middle. She'd bought that at an antique shop in Savannah for our 20th anniversary. "You broke Martha's lamp," I said, and I couldn't keep the hurt out of my voice. "So what? It's just some old junk anyway." Something snapped in me then. Martha's memory meant everything to me, and this drunk fool was calling her things junk. "That lamp meant something to your mother. Show some respect." Wrong thing to say. His face twisted up ugly, and he took 3 quick steps toward me. For the first time in my life, I felt afraid of my own son. "Respect?" he shouted. You want to talk about respect? How about respecting the fact that I'm a grown man who doesn't need lectures from some old fool who's outlived his usefulness? I held my ground, but my heart was pounding. Victor, you've been drinking. Go to bed. We'll talk in the morning. We'll talk when I say we'll talk. Then he shoved me. Hard, my 60-year-old legs couldn't handle the force, and I went stumbling backward. My hip caught the edge of the coffee table, and I crashed down onto the hardwood floor Martha had been so proud of. Pain shot through my back like lightning, and for a second I couldn't breathe. But Victor wasn't done. You want to see what real work looks like? He shouted, standing over me like some kind of bully. This is real work. Dealing with you every damn day, listening to your lectures, pretending to give a damn about your stupid stories about mom and the good old days. Then he kicked my ribs. Not hard enough to break anything, but hard enough to knock what little wind I had left out of me and let me know he could do worse if he wanted to. I lay there on my own floor, looking up at the son I'd raised, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike in this very living room when he was 6 years old, the boy I'd worked double shifts to put through community college, the boy who used to help me fix cars in the garage and called me his hero. Clean this mess up, he said, pointing at the broken lamp, and don't wait up for me tomorrow night. I'm going out. Then he walked upstairs and slammed his bedroom door so hard the whole house shook. The silence that followed was the heaviest thing I've ever felt. Not the peaceful quiet of a house at rest, but the dead silence that comes after something breaks that can't be fixed. I stayed on that floor for maybe 15 minutes, not because I couldn't get up, but because I needed to think. My ribs ached where he'd kicked me, my hip throbbed from hitting the table, but my mind was clearer than it had been in months. That's when I made my decision. I got up slowly, feeling every one of my 60 years, and turned off all the lights. I didn't clean up the broken lamp, I left it right where it fell. Evidence. Instead of going to sleep, I went to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed Martha and I had shared for 32 years. I opened the drawer of my nightstand and pulled out two things. First was a small digital camera I'd bought last Christmas to record videos for my granddaughter in California. Pocket-sized thing, but it could record for hours. Victor didn't know I had it. Second was a manila folder where I'd been keeping copies of my bank statements for the past 6 months. See, Victor thought I was just some old fool who didn't understand modern banking. But I'd been a factory supervisor for 15 years before I retired. I knew how to read reports, track numbers, and build a case. I'd been documenting every unauthorized withdrawal, every time money disappeared from my account. $200 here, $350 there, then bigger amounts. $800, $1, $1,500, always when I was at church or out getting groceries, times when Victor had access to my wallet. I had photocopies of the withdrawal slips with handwriting that sure looked like Victor's. I had dates and times that matched up with when he'd been acting nervous or overly friendly, trying to butter me up. What I didn't have was proof of the physical assault until tonight. I spent the next hour setting up that little camera on my bedroom dresser, angled so it could see down the hallway toward the stairs. If Victor came after me again, I'd have it on video. Then I did something I hadn't done since Martha died. I prayed, really prayed, not just the quick blessing before meals or the routine words at church. Martha, I whispered to the darkness, I need to know what to do here. This isn't the boy we raised. This isn't our son anymore. I don't know if it was grief or exhaustion or just an old man talking to himself, but I swear I could almost hear her voice. Harold, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. At 5 a.m., I got up and started my day like always. Shower, coffee, check the weather, but this time I had a plan. My first call was to Judge Florence Patterson next door. Florence had been Martha's closest friend and my neighbor for 20 years. Tough woman, retired federal judge who'd seen everything the legal system had to offer. Harold, she answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the early hour. What's wrong? Florence, Victor assaulted me last night. I've got evidence of him stealing from my retirement account too. I need your help. There was a long pause. Harold, are you safe right now? He's sleeping it off upstairs. Florence, I want to handle this properly, legal-like. I've got documentation and I want witnesses who matter. Can you come over at 8 this morning? I'll be there at 70:45. Have you called the police? That's my second call. My next call was to Detective George Murphy at Charleston PD. George sang in the church choir with Martha and me for 10 years. Good man, fair man, someone who understood that sometimes family situations require a delicate touch. Detective Murphy, this is Harold Brennan from Maple Street. I need to file charges against my son for assault and elder financial abuse. Harold, are you hurt? Do you need an ambulance? I'm bruised up, but okay. George, I want to do this right. I've got evidence. I've got Judge Patterson coming as a witness, and I want Victor to understand exactly what he's done before you take him away. Can you be here at 8? I'll be there. Harold, if he threatens you again, you call 911 immediately. While I waited for 8 o'clock, I did something that probably sounds crazy. I cooked breakfast. Not just any breakfast, the full treatment. Bacon, eggs over easy, cheese grits, and buttermilk biscuits from scratch. Martha's recipe for the biscuits, the one she got from her grandmother. Mix the flour and baking powder, cut in cold butter until it looks like coarse meal, add buttermilk just until it comes together. Don't overwork the dough, she always said, or they'll be tough. The smell of that bacon frying and those biscuits baking filled the house, floating upstairs like a dinner bell. I knew it would wake Victor up eventually, and I wanted him to smell something good, something that reminded him of better times before he learned what was waiting for him. At 7:45 sharp, Judge Patterson knocked on my front door. She was dressed in a navy blue suit like she was heading to court, carrying her leather briefcase and wearing the kind of expression that made lawyers nervous. "Let me see what you've got," she said without any small talk. I handed her the manila folder. Bank statements going back 6 months, copies of withdrawal slips, a timeline I'd written out showing when each theft occurred, and photos I'd taken of the broken lamp and the bruise forming on my hip. She reviewed everything with the eye of someone who'd spent 30 years on the federal bench. Flipping through pages, making notes, asking pointed questions about dates and amounts. "Harold, this is solid evidence. Financial elder abuse, simple assault, destruction of property. How do you want to proceed? I want him to see what he's throwing away before they take him. I want him to understand that actions have consequences, and I want him to know his old dad isn't the pushover he thinks I am." At exactly 8 o'clock, Detective Murphy arrived with Officer Lisa Barnes. They parked in my driveway, no sirens, no flashing lights. Just two professionals doing their job with the kind of quiet authority that commands respect. I met them at the front door and led them through the house to the dining room. The table was set with Martha's good china. The wedding set we'd gotten 38 years ago with the little blue flowers around the rim. 4-place settings, fresh coffee in the silver pot, and breakfast laid out like Sunday dinner. Judge Patterson sat to my right, Detective Murphy to my left. The fourth chair at the far end of the table facing me was waiting for Victor. "Harold," Detective Murphy said quietly, "are you sure about this approach? We could just go upstairs and arrest him in his room." "No," I said, pouring coffee for everyone. "I want him to see what he's done. I want him to understand that his actions brought the law to my breakfast table. Some lessons need to be learned sitting down." At 8:15, I heard movement upstairs. The shower running, then footsteps in the hallway. Victor was finally waking up, probably with a hangover and no memory of what he'd done to me 5 hours earlier. He came down those stairs like he owned the place, following his nose toward the smell of bacon, probably thinking I was cooking for him like always, that everything would go back to normal because I'd made his favorite breakfast. When he walked into the dining room and saw Judge Patterson in her courthouse suit, Detective Murphy in uniform, and Officer Barnes standing by the doorway, the color drained from his face like water from a broken pipe. "What the hell?" he stammered, looking around the room like a trapped animal. "Sit down, Victor," I said calmly, pointing to the empty chair. "Dad, what's going on? Who are these people?" Judge Patterson answered for me. Her voice carried the authority of someone who'd sentenced men to federal prison and wasn't impressed by much of anything. "Victor Brennan, I'm Judge Florence Patterson, retired from the federal bench. This is Detective Murphy from Charleston PD. Your father has asked us here this morning to discuss some very serious legal matters." Victor's legs seemed to give out, and he dropped into the chair like a sack of grain. His hungover face went from red to gray to white in about 10 seconds. Detective Murphy opened his notepad and read from it like he was testifying in court. "Victor, according to bank records provided by your father, you've made unauthorized withdrawals totaling $6,200 from his retirement account over the past 6 months. That constitutes felony theft under South Carolina law." "I was going to pay it back," Victor whispered. "With what money?" I asked. "You haven't had a job in 8 months?" Judge Patterson leaned forward. "Victor, I've reviewed the evidence your father compiled. Bank statements with forged signatures, witness testimony from neighbors about disturbances, medical documentation, and physical evidence from last night's assault. This isn't a family dispute anymore. This is criminal behavior." That's when Victor really started to panic. His eyes darted around the room like he was looking for an escape route that didn't exist. "Dad, please, I was drunk. I didn't mean to hurt you. We can work this out. I'll go to rehab. I'll pay you back. Whatever you want. Work what out, son." I stood up slowly, feeling every ache in my bruised ribs but standing straight and tall. "You've stolen my retirement money. You've turned my house into a place where I'm afraid to speak my mind. You put your hands on me in anger. What exactly are we working out?" I reached into my shirt pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. A check I'd written to myself that morning for $6,200, the exact amount he'd stolen. "Victor, "Do you see this check?" He nodded, confused. "I wrote this to myself this morning. It's for the exact amount you took from my account. Now here's what's going to happen. Detective Murphy is going to arrest you for theft and assault. You're going to face a judge who doesn't know you from Adam, and I'm going to deposit this check into a new account at a different bank, one where you'll never have access again." The reality of the situation was finally sinking in for Victor. The free ride was over. The enabling was done. "But I'm your son," he said, and there were real tears in his eyes now. "I'm your only family." "No, Victor. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't put hands on each other in anger. You stopped being my family the night you decided I was your victim instead of your father." Detective Murphy stood up. "Victor Brennan, you're under arrest for simple assault and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The sound of those handcuffs clicking shut was the best sound I'd heard in months. Not because I wanted to hurt my son, but because it was the sound of consequences finally catching up to choices. As they led him toward the front door, Victor turned back to me one last time. His face was a mess of tears and snot and desperation. "Dad, you'll regret this. When I'm gone, you'll be all alone in this house. You'll have nobody." I looked him straight in the eye. "Son, I've been alone in this house for months, even with you living here. The difference is, now I'll have my peace back." The front door closed behind them, and suddenly my house was quiet. Really quiet for the first time since Victor moved back in. Judge Patterson helped me clear the breakfast dishes. We didn't talk much, just moved around my kitchen like the old friends we were. "Harold," she finally said, "you did the hardest thing a parent can do. You chose tough love over easy enabling. I know doesn't make it hurt any less. It's not supposed to stop hurting. The day it stops hurting is the day you stop being a father." After she left, I sat in my living room and looked at Martha's broken lamp. The green shade was cracked right down the middle, but the base was still solid brass, still beautiful. Like a lot of things in life, it was damaged but not destroyed. I could get it repaired, or I could leave it as a reminder of the night everything changed. Victor spent 3 weeks in county jail waiting for his court date. 3 weeks of me sleeping through the night without listening for his truck in the driveway. 3 weeks of eating meals without walking on eggshells. 3 weeks of remembering what peace felt like. The prosecutor, a sharp young woman named Sarah Williams, called me a few days before the hearing. "Mr. Brennan, given your son's clean record before this incident and his apparent substance abuse issues, we're recommending a plea deal. 6 months in court-ordered residential treatment, followed by 18 months probation and full restitution." What's that mean in plain English? It means he goes to a facility that treats alcoholism and anger management. He has to complete the program, successfully pay back every penny he stole with interest, and stay out of trouble for a year and a half after that. If he violates any part of the agreement, he goes to prison, and if he doesn't take the deal, then we go to trial, and if convicted, he's looking at 2 to 5 years in state prison. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. I want him to take the treatment, but I want it on record that he's not welcome back in my house ever. And I want a restraining order that keeps him away from my property. We can arrange that. The day of Victor's sentencing, I sat in the back of the courtroom wearing my best suit, the navy blue one Martha bought me for church. Victor stood before Judge William Morrison in an orange jumpsuit, looking thinner and more sober than I'd seen him in months. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, Victor turned around and looked at me. "Your Honor, I want to apologize to my father. I stole from him, I disrespected him, and I put my hands on him in anger. There's no excuse for any of that. I accept full responsibility, and I'm grateful for this chance to get the help I need." It was the first time in 2 years I'd heard my son take responsibility for anything without making excuses or blaming someone else. After the hearing, Victor was transferred directly to Pine Ridge Treatment Center about 2 hours north of Charleston. I didn't visit during his first 3 months there. The counselor said family contact could be counterproductive during the early stages, but letters started coming in month 4. Real letters, handwritten on lined paper, not text messages or emails. "Dad," the first one began, "I'm writing this with a clear head for the first time and I don't know how long. They've got me in group therapy, individual counseling, and working in the kitchen here. I've been sober 127 days now, and I can finally see what I became. I turned into someone who blamed everyone else for his problems. I blamed you for not understanding me. I blamed the railroad for laying me off. I blamed Mom for dying and leaving me to figure things out alone. But the truth is, I made every choice that brought me to this place. You didn't put me here, Dad. My anger put me here. My drinking put me here. My refusal to take responsibility put me here. You just stopped enabling me to destroy myself." The letters kept coming, one every 2 weeks, not asking for money or favors, just updating me on his progress and taking responsibility for what he'd done. In month 5, he wrote, I met with the financial counselor here today with interest. I owe you $7,140. I've been working in the kitchen for $20 an hour and I've saved $143 so far. It's going to take me a long time to pay you back, but I'm going to do it every penny. 6 months later, Victor completed the program. His counselor, Dr. Patricia Walsh, called me a week before his release. Mr. Brennan, your son has made remarkable progress. He's been sober for 184 days. He's completed anger management, and he's got a job lined up at a warehouse here in town. But I want to be clear, recovery is a lifelong process. There are no guarantees, I understand. He'd like to meet with you, if you're willing. Supervised in my office just to talk, I thought about it for 3 days. Finally decided that if he was serious about making amends, I owed it to both of us to hear him out. The meeting was awkward as hell. Victor looked different, healthier, but older somehow, like he'd finally grown up at 36. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me, he said. I don't expect you to trust me, but I want you to know that I understand now. You didn't abandon me when you had me arrested. You saved me from myself. What's your plan now, son? I've got a studio apartment near the warehouse where I'll be working. I'll be attending AA meetings 3 times a week and seeing Dr. Walsh once a month for the next year. I want to pay you back. And I want to prove that I can be the man you and Mom raised me to be. That's a good start. We meet for coffee now, once a month at a diner downtown. Neutral territory. He's been clean for 14 months, working steady, and has paid me back $2,800 so far. The relationship isn't what it was when he was a boy. Maybe it never will be, but it's honest now, it's respectful, and most importantly, it's safe. Victor calls me every Sunday evening just to check in. We talk about his job, my garden, the weather, safe topics. He doesn't ask to come over, and I don't invite him. We both understand the boundaries. Last month, he sent me a card for Father's Day. Simple message. Thank you for loving me enough to let me hit bottom. It was the only way I could learn to climb back up. Sometimes the hardest thing a father can do is stop protecting his child from the consequences of their choices. I spent years trying to shield Victor from the world, but what he really needed protection from was himself. That morning, serving breakfast with handcuffs, I didn't just get my peace back. I think I might have helped my son find his too. Setting boundaries isn't about giving up on someone you love. It's about loving them enough to stop enabling their destruction and forcing them to become accountable for their own choices. The greatest gift a father can give his adult child isn't protection from consequences, but the courage to face them, because sometimes the only way to save someone is to stop saving them from themselves.